tonight, huh? Who in here could be like the little fellow that comes to the Lord and he says, Lord, I believe, but help thou my unbelief. You probably have found yourself there before. I know I have. When you get, especially physical problems, some people will say you don't have enough faith. If you've got cancer and you're not healed, well, then it must be your fault. You don't have enough faith. And I don't buy into that. That's their business if they want to run that stuff down and try to tell people that. But there are some things that somebody may say, well, that's just a cop-out. But there are some things that God allows. I don't know why. That's why I'm George. That's why he's God.
That's right. Amen.
Some things I don't. I understand things. I understand that we all could get sick. I understand that we all will die. I understand that any one of us could have a tragedy from the time we leave this church, get home. If you don't have a cell phone, maybe a message on your machine, something terrible. I understand those things happen. I don't understand why everything happens. There are a lot of things I do understand why they happen. As a result of how we live sometimes. I mean, you could just look at me and say, would you be surprised if someone said to you, can you believe our pastor he had a massive heart attack? I got a grandfather that died at 46 years old of a massive heart attack. I don't have heart disease other than that runs in my family, but that was my grandfather. So you may look and somebody could say, well, you know, he should have done this. There are a lot of things that I could look at and say, yeah, I can see that happening and see why. And then there are some things that I can't figure. But I don't blame God for those things. There are some things that have kept me awake at night, and I've prayed about them, and I've tried my best to leave some things in the hands of God that I find in myself trying to pick them back up and to do something with them. But to have faith in God, for us as Christians, now there's a certain amount of faith that is given to us when we are saved. He adds faith unto faith. But for us as Christians, it shouldn't be hard to be able to look, to read the Bible. And this is a good thing about reading the Word of God. When you read it, you see the attributes of God. You see how God conducts his business. You see how he works. And so you say, if he did this, probably means he'd do the same thing for me. Or he could do the same thing for me. Doesn't mean that he will. But in chapter 11 of Hebrews, and that's where I'm going to read to you just a portion from tonight, chapter 11 of Hebrews, I want to run through some of this, and I want you to be able to look and see if there's anything here that you could examine your life and say, you know what? I need a either closer walk with God. I need to rely on him more. I need to put more faith in him. It is not, I know it's a very simple thing. Dave, I'm putting the wireless mic on for the video tonight. It's a little louder for those people that would watch it live anyhow. And all of you that are here, you're already watching it live. So it is easy to find ourselves in situations that we just don't understand. If God says to you, and first you must be a child of God, he's going to be talking to you. But if he says to you something to do, and it can be simple. And what I mean simple for me might not mean simple for you. I'm not a shy person. Maybe you are. God says stand to your feet and give a testimony tonight. And you say, ain't going to do it. Not going to happen. That's not me. That's not my personality. It's not my makeup. But to have faith to believe that Satan's not telling you to do it. So if God's telling you to do it, and you do it, it's probably for somebody that is here. It is probably to edify the church. It is probably something that somebody would have gotten from you that they might not even get from my preaching tonight. Maybe you don't look at things that way, but I do. Sometimes it's not the big leap of faith that God asks you for. That's why I like to see people come in, shake hands, hug one another. I like to see young Christians, when they get saved, kind of survey what the older ones are doing and get on board, as one guy said, the discipleship. We need disciples, and we need to together, and we need to do certain things, and the simplest thing for a young Christian helps them to grow.
Yeah.
Now, something that we don't do here a lot, but we have done it in churches I've pastored in the past, and it can get rather lengthy, it can, and it can get rather busybodily, it can, but is shake hands, fellowship, gather around the altar for prayer. And then you come around the altar for prayer, and as you're standing here, and people are giving their requests, and you're hearing those things, and God knows you won't remember all of them, but they are saying them out loud because somebody's going to hear them, but we know God is. And then they pray. And that's how I was raised, and you've probably been in churches like that, and maybe this was one of those churches at a time where you did that routinely, automatically. There it was. I can't tell you how it strengthened me when I first got saved to be one of the fellas that came up front.
Yeah.
It was just something for me to come up front. They invited me to come up and stand by the people that were getting ready to pray. And as a young Christian, it was like a baby learning how to walk and taking certain steps. And I appreciated that. And I learned to pray. Somebody I invited to a church I pastored once, and when they'd pray for a while, and they were a little loud, they'd be down on their knees and be praying, and afterwards, this man wasn't a Christian. He said, "Can you explain something to me?" And I said, "I'll try." And he said, "How did you understand everything all those people were saying?" I said, "I didn't have to. They weren't talking to me."
Yeah.
But see, he didn't understand that.
Yeah.
But just a little move like that was something that increased my faith. To watch God do something in your life or in the life of someone else gives me more faith. To look at that, because I can read the Word of God. I like Roy Willis said one time, it's time that you start praying that God show you something other than just the people in the book of Hebrews and what faith they had, but it's time that you pray that God shows you.
Yeah.
It gives you faith.
Yeah.
And it's an experience that you have in your life. So you can stand up in a church or stand on the street corner and say, "I know you might not believe this, but I prayed and this happened."
Amen.
It's great to know that God still works those things.
Yeah.
We say, is he a God of miracles? He is. And if you can barely walk tonight, he could heal you. Will he? I don't know. But I do know that he can.
Amen.
I watched a gentleman, and I will read to you here in a minute, but I watched a gentleman in a Free Will Baptist church. He was not a Free Will Baptist pastor or preacher, but then again, neither am I, right? Yeah. Anyhow, so he was at this church holding a revival, and I was in the church service, and I appreciated his message, and I loved the man. Well, I saw something happen there that I'd never seen before. He'd taken some of the doctrine from whence he came, and he's holding revival in this church, and he asked, "Is there anybody there tonight that would like to be anointed with oil and lay the hands on them, and the prayer of faith shall save the sick, and if they've committed these sins, the scripture says they shall be forgiven them." And there was a woman who was blind. And she said, "I would like for God to give me my eyesight back." And the saying that the gentleman used was pretty popular and has been at times. If you're in a service like that, it said like this: "Now, if you don't believe, stay in your seat. Don't come up. Don't lay hands on the sister. But we're going to pray." She was blind when they started. She was blind when they finished. Did it increase her faith? Or did it harm her? Did it increase the faith of the people around? Did it harm them? To me, it didn't do any damage to me, because I look at it, not a cop-out, but I look at it and say, I do not know why God has allowed this, and I do not know, if he does not lift it, why he hasn't. But it doesn't destroy my faith.
Amen.
So I want to encourage you tonight that you will not always be a spiritual Superman. And if you think you are, and we took our grandkids at the beginning of the week down to the Ashland Mall, and I used to collect comic books when I was a kid, and so they like comic book stuff, and so there's a phone booth. A Superman still using a phone booth. Can you believe that? He'd have a hard time today, man. There's cell phones. You ain't got a phone booth. But anyhow, the kids got in there, and we took a picture of them, and there's Superman in there and trying to change and all that stuff. And as I was looking at them, I thought, I wonder how many people on any given day could be the Clark Kent, could be the guy all dressed up, but when the power of God comes on you, you are a Superman, but you're not that every day. You're not that every day. The fantastic preachers that you love to hear, they live so far away, maybe you couldn't drive to be in their church service, but you can turn the TV on, listen to them, and say, wow, that guy's great. I wish I could go to his church. He ain't Superman every day. Amen. We have times that we are down. We do miss the mark sometimes. But I would say to you tonight, don't settle. Don't settle. Don't say I'm comfortable just being. I'm not comfortable. Whenever we were praying in the back, I just prayed, God, help this church to be in a constant state of revival. Yeah. If it's the one-night revival a month and then it feeds us to the next time. But my prayer is that people come, people are excited, people are happy, people love one another. People will want to be around that kind of environment. Well, then when they are around that, they start inviting their friends and their family. I mean, that's when the church starts growing. But even though it grows physically, it doesn't mean everybody is really where they need to be spiritually. That's what I want to see. I want to see people get closer to God than they've ever been in their life. I don't care how many years the church has been here, whether it was the 54 church or the 6-year-ago church. It doesn't matter to me. Those things don't matter to me. Do I agree and believe that we can look at our history and say, oh, that was a great time? Yes, I can, but man, a lot of those people are even gone. We're here today. It's what we do with what we have and where we go from here. Yeah. So I have faith to believe that when I pray, He hears me. I can call you and ask you to pray for me or ask something on the prayer chain and you can hear that request and pray for me. But I thank God I don't need anybody else to pray because I can't get a prayer through. Yeah. I thank God that when I pray, and there's no sin in the way, and you can think however you want to, but the Bible backs that up. It is not that His hand is so short, His arm is so short that He can't reach you, or that His ear is so deaf that He can't hear you, but your sin, your iniquity separates you from your God. So you need to be careful, but stay in good communication with God, and when you pray, you believe your prayers are answered. You can believe yes, no, and maybe. Believe whatever you want to, but believe that if it's something you're praying for, and it does not happen. He is not a genie in the bottle, but if it does not happen, believe that He's still God. Believe that He still sees everything that happens. Some people say He's in control over everything. I understand what you're saying, but you have to understand that Satan is the god of this world, and when he puts in the minds of unbelievers to do certain things, God will not make them do otherwise. He gives them an opportunity to, but He will not make them different. He didn't do it for you, and He's not going to do it for me. The difference is when we come to a knowledge we need to be saved, and when we are converted, that means change, just like an old Chevy conversion van. Changed over now, when we're changed, then there is something about us that wants to work for God. But until then, some of the things that we pray about, we may not see those things happen because God will not force His will on anyone. That was a lot to get to this. Chapter 11 of the book of Hebrews. What I want to do tonight, and my intention as your pastor or as a minister or as your friend or as your co-worker for the Lord, is I want to encourage you to continue in faith to believe that God is, and He is a rewarder of them that diligently seek Him. He's a rewarder of them that diligently seek Him, not a rewarder of them that nonchalantly say, I'll go to church if I want to. I don't believe you have to be in church to be a Christian. I don't know if I really feel much like a Christian today. Those that diligently seek Him, it has to mean something to you. When it means something to you, my wife said that they wanted her to stay in South Carolina when we visited a few days ago. She said she was excited about it. They wanted me to stay. How would it sound if I would have said, well, baby, go ahead? How would it have sounded tonight if I would have said, I wanted you to stay too? I wouldn't be loved, would it? No. It is the connection that I have with that girl that makes our relationship what it is. It's the connection you have with God that makes your relationship what it is.
Amen.
I want everybody else to look at you and envy the relationship you have with God. Not be jealous of it, not be envious of it to where they sin, but I want them to look at you and see the fire that God has put in your heart and in my heart and say, man, that's what I want. That's what I expect when preachers come and preach revivals. I love preachers when they come to preach a revival. They make me set up on the edge, take notice, and salute the Lord and say, that's what I want. I want to be encouraged. I want to be strengthened. I want to have the fire lit in me, and hopefully you do as well. Now, chapter 11 of the book of Hebrews. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For by it the elders obtained a good report. Through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. If you can't have that faith, you can't see that. I had a high school principal say one time to me, you surely are smart enough not to believe that there was a worldwide flood. Didn't make me feel bad a bit. Because I'm thinking, fella, Satan's tried this stupidity with me. He didn't win me, and you're not going to either, so I just went my way. Yes, I believe. Faith. Faith is to believe. Yeah. By faith, we take these things and we believe them. Listen, it says, verse 4, by faith Abel offered unto God a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, by which he obtained a witness that he was righteous, God testifying of his gifts, and by it, he being dead yet speaketh. By faith Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found because God had translated him. But before his translation he had his testimony that he pleased God. But without faith it is impossible to please him.
That's right.
For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. By faith Noah, being warned of God of things not seen as yet. Now, how many times have there been things not seen in your life as yet, but you just knew? I explained it like this. When we moved, I gave our church 5-week notice. I told my mama I was leaving. I accepted a job. I transferred within 5 weeks. I was living from Lucasville. Sold our home. Moved there within 5 weeks and 2 days. I was working, transferred my job. I was there working, and every step I took, it looked like there was nothing for my foot to land on, and then boom, every step. God never let us down at any time. I mean, we sold all of our furniture and went there, and a woman said to me, who I contacted at church because I recognized the name of the church, the denomination. I thought, okay, I can trust this. I called. They said, we got a woman here that owns condos and townhouses, and guess what? They said, you drive in on a Tuesday, we'll put you up in it. If you like it, you can rent it the next day. If you don't, stay the first night free. And when I began to talk with them, they said, everything's furnished. I said, well, that's good because we don't have anything anyhow. We stayed there about 6 months. You know how much money they get out of almost oceanfront property when you can see the beach? Yeah, well, they were giving it to us for, I won't tell you what on the month, but it was dirt cheap compared to what they was going to make a week. They were going to quadruple per week what they were charging us for the month in the first few winter months. And so I said, well, I don't know what I'm going to do now. I wasn't afraid down there. I wasn't afraid I was going to get killed. I wasn't afraid I was going to, because I was thinking to myself, I don't know what God's got up. But God didn't bring me down here for stupidity. He's got something up, so I've got faith in him to believe that whatever he says, whichever direction he says go, that's what we have to do. This person said to me, well, we have a house and we'd like to rent it. Do you know someone who would like to? And I said, well, how about us? Do you think you'd like to rent it? I said, yeah. So I went, we looked at the place. He said, would you like to rent it? I said, well, yes. I could live here till the day I die. I like it pretty well. He said, well, give me enough time. He said, the person that passed away that owned the place, all of her furniture is in there, and I've got to either sell it or put it in storage. I said, man, that's great. We don't have any furniture. All we got is 2 cars. He said, man, there's 2 beds, there's a couch, there's a chair, everything you need. I mean, it just happened that way. And I had faith to believe that if God said, jump off the bridge, you all know, if your parents were anything like mine, my dad would say, yeah, what would you do if your friends jumped off? Would you jump off too? If God said jump off the bridge, I believe you'd have a net. I believe there would be some way of escape. if God said it. And so I have that faith then. But then there are times I've noticed that my faith has got a little dim. And it's not been my faith in God. It's been my faith in me. It's been that I've looked and said, God will do it for Jim and Connie. I don't know if he will do it for me. I can't explain that to you, and some of you may say, that's just because you're weak spiritually. Well, you can think whatever you want. I don't take offense at that. It is what it is. And whatever it is, at those times, I've looked and said, okay, God, I believe. But God, you got to help my unbelief. I don't know how this is going to work out, God. People will come to you and almost chant, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I'm like, can you just quiet down a minute? I'm trying to think here. The only way it's going to be okay is if God makes it okay. But I have to have enough faith in God to believe that whatever comes my way, He may not deliver me through it. He didn't bring the Hebrew boys out of the fire, but He went in the fire with them. Amen. And so whatever it is that comes my way, He will see it. He will know it. And if it's coming my way, He must figure I can handle it. And if it kills me, guess what? I'm going to be where He is. Anyhow. You say those are pretty arrogant words. I haven't always been able to say those words. I haven't always been able to believe and feel those words. But I want to say to you tonight that if Abraham, indeed, as we read through that chapter, and you can read all that on your own time if you'd like. Who are we kidding? It's all God's time, right? But anyhow, when you're home, you can read all that. But you find that there were times that God spoke. Abraham is known as the father of our faith. The father of faith. That must mean he's a pretty great fella. He's got it going on. You may judge yourself against Abraham. You can judge yourself against any one of these people in chapter 11. And you may think, wow, they must have really had some faith. What I'm saying to you is, put this faith to work in your life. If there is something that you want of God, pray about it, talk to Him about it. And I'm not talking about just physical things. Let me use this as an excuse, and he may never do it. If Richard says, "Oh God, I'd just like to have a new Harley. Let me trade that old one." He may be perfectly fine with that old one. He may not want a new one. I don't know, but I'm not saying to you pray for things. And if you do pray for something, if you pray, God, you know we need this, and God gives you something. I said the other day, I was talking about a new vehicle, and the family that sat up here came to me and he said, "We just bought a new vehicle yesterday." I said, "I didn't know it. I wasn't preaching against a new vehicle." They said, "No, but we were laughing when you said it." And sometimes we do pray for physical things. But how about physical things as far as, God, you see the needs of my family?
Yes. Amen.
I mean, how much harder do you get kicked in the gut than when it's one of your children or grandchildren? Amen. Or your parents? Or your brothers and sisters. But somebody that you really love. Somebody that you love people. I hope you get this and I hope you understand this. You do love people, but you can sit down and watch the 6 o'clock news and eat a cheeseburger and hear them talking about someone dying in Ethiopia. You can do it. But if you're sitting there eating a cheeseburger and your phone rings and someone tells you your family or your closest friend just died, the eating stops. Right. See, there's a difference. We could say, well, there shouldn't be, but that's what makes family, that bond, that relationship, I suppose. Even with people in the church, you would be more shocked or more hurt maybe or devastated if you knew something was up with them than what you would be of people that you don't know. You can have a feel for those folks and you can pray a sincere prayer. God, please do help them. I'm not saying that you don't care, but I'm just saying there is a more impact happens to you when it's someone you know. Okay, so what happens first is God speaks to Abram and Sarai. And in speaking to them in the book of Genesis, God speaks to Abram and he finally speaks to him and says, I'm going to change your name to Abraham. You are going to be the father of a great nation. Can you count the stars in the sky? Can you count the sand on the shores? You cannot. And neither will you be able to count your seed. Now what that meant was, and we understand it because we've read it, we've got the Bible, what it meant was Abraham and Sarah, he changed her name as well, we're going to have a child. Now when did God come to him and tell him? Abraham was 99 years old and Sarah was 90. Abraham was right almost nigh on 100 years old. So let me stop here and tell you, I'm a hospice chaplain. I had some patients that had been married 70 some years, and he was 101 and she was 90 something, I believe, and both of their minds were just, they'd come and go. And so I'd say, now how old are you, sir? And he said, I'm nigh on 100 years old. And his wife sitting next to him would say, my lands, I never thought I'd be married to a 100-year-old man. And then her next phrase was, does my daddy know I'm married to him? Because her mind just wasn't there. Can you imagine when God speaks to Abraham and says, you're going to have a son? Yeah. And you know, we blame Sarah sometimes for laughing, and the angel said, why did she laugh? And she said, I didn't. But even Abraham, I believe it is chapter 37, 38, or 39, somewhere around there in Genesis, even Abraham laughs a little bit, and he said, you know, she's beyond the age of childbirth and childbearing. Now, I just want to leave this with you. Why do you think God waited? Because if God would not have waited, it would have just been the act that always happens when a man and a woman have a child, right? It just would have been there. It would have been the sexual act, and here that she would have conceived and everything would have been. But God waited. And he didn't wait till she was 40. He didn't wait until the hot flashes were over or starting, or however it is with you ladies, sorry. He didn't wait till then. He didn't wait till 60. He didn't wait till 70. He didn't wait till 80. He waited till she was 90. What does that tell me? There will be absolutely no missing that God is the one who caused this thing. Yeah. Now, if you know the story and you've read the story, then you know that Sarah says to Abraham, and that's just the way it was then, I know you want a son. This is not going to happen. I want you to take my handmaid Hagar, and I want you to go in unto her. Yeah. I don't want you to have a son. And so, guys, don't get yourself in trouble if you're married here, but what did he say? I don't want to do this. But he did. He did. And it, in my terms, burnt her up later. She despised it. His wife, and you can imagine how you would feel, she despised it because she could not give him what he had already felt that God had promised. And if he would have waited, now someone is going to say, but wait a minute, he wasn't supposed to wait, and it was all in God's plan, it was all in God's time, and God was in control. God saw everything that was going to happen. I don't believe for a minute that God didn't see what was going to happen, but I don't think that was that God ordained it and said, now this is going to happen. I think he just sat back and thought, oh, come on, don't tell him to do that, but I know if you tell him to do that, he'll do it. Boop. Yep, she just did it. Oh, there he goes. Yep, next thing you know, Ishmael's born. And 13 years later or so, God says, that boy's all right. But he's not the heir. You're going to have a son. His name is going to be Isaac. Now, some of you maybe don't read any other book other than the Bible. And that's fine. That's your business. So you may say, no, I just stick to the Bible. There's an author, Dennis Kinlaw, who had a book, The Mind of Christ. And in it, he discussed spirituality versus carnality. Now, let me read to you something. Maybe you've never looked at it this way before, but let me just read this to you before I finish. Abraham got everything through Hagar. Everything through Hagar that he got through Sarah, except the most important thing. God promised Abraham a son, out of whom would come a family, out of whom would come a nation, and to whom he would give the real estate. Isaac had 12 sons. Ishmael had 12 sons. Isaac's 12 sons had families, became king with kingdoms, and they owned great sections of the Middle East. The same was true of Ishmael's sons. So Abraham got through Hagar everything that he got through Sarah, except his descendant, Jesus Christ. Ishmael was the child of Abraham's perfect conformity to the law. And the law, the code of Hammurabi, a Near Eastern law, was that he should have a son and leave these things to his son. While Isaac was the child of God's perfect fulfillment of his promise. A simple biological act could produce Ishmael, but it took an act of God to produce Isaac. What I'm saying to you tonight is, if you feel discouraged sometimes because you just can't seem to muster up enough faith, you're not alone. Even the father of the faith of the Israelites, or what we would look at today and say of Judaism, even the father of our faith at a time or two had one of those moments where he said, okay, God said, Abraham said, yes. He said, I want you to leave your father's home, and I want you to go to a place I will show you. And he said, okay. He packed up and went. Every time God spoke with him, he did what God said. This time here, he kind of laughed, didn't he? He's like, I don't know about that. She's old, and I'm older. And God says, trust me, it will happen. And it did happen. The best that you and I can do when we try to work things out is carnal. The best we can do is try to fix things. Now, I'm preaching to me tonight, but the best I can do is try to fix things the way I know to fix them. Amen. And the best thing for me to do is have faith to believe that if God says he will take care of it, he will take care of it. Amen. I don't know how. I don't know how many years. I don't know how long, but I do know I have to have enough faith in God to believe. Now, let me fast forward to Isaac, some say about 17, 18 years old. And God says to him, Abraham, and Abraham says, here am I, and says, I want you to take now your son, your only son. I want you to take him to this mountain. I want you to take him to this place I will show you. I want you to offer him as a sacrifice. And you know what he said? Okay. Wow. Why? You say, I don't think I could do that. Well, let's back up. That's why I said the importance of reading the Bible verified here. Back up. What did God say? You will have a son. His name will be Isaac. He will be the father. He will be the father of great nations. Yes. This is your son. How can he be the father of anybody else if God kills him right then? Right. Yeah. But God is willing or wanting to see, is this man willing finally to take everything by faith? Amen. Now, there may be things in your life, like I said, you don't understand. We look at these people. When you read through this chapter 11, you see all kinds of examples. I don't have to read them all to you tonight, but you will see all kinds of examples. Noah, Moses, Rahab the harlot, all these people. It takes faith. Without it is impossible to please God. Well, ain't no one going to come for Bible school this week. I just tell you right now, we spend all this time decorating, ain't nothing going to happen. Ain't no one coming. We don't even have a church bus. What kind of faith would that be? I mean, like, if you believe that, please don't come this week. Stay home and pray for yourself. And then pray for the church and for the people that are coming to work it. Well, they took that guy in and he wasn't even ordained as a Free Will Baptist pastor. This will never work. I don't know what those people were thinking. Let's just sit back and watch that church fold up and close the doors. What kind of faith would that be? God never said to me, you must be Free Will Baptist. He said to me, you must be born again. Amen. I'm not nothing against them. I'm in one of their churches. They love me, I love them. Well, some of them love me, and I love some of them, right? We love one another. But what I'm saying is, what kind of faith does it take when God speaks? It may be the time of day, it may be the mood I'm in, it may be all my fault, but it is never God who should receive the blame for anything that doesn't go the way I think it should go.
Amen.
And so this is the 23rd, and 30 years ago yesterday, my father passed. 30 years later, I still don't understand all that. I understand people die. I understand people take their own lives. I understand it. I understand it happens. There's a lot I don't understand. Somebody said to me one time, do you believe when you get to heaven you'll see your Father? I said, if I do not, I won't know it.
That's right.
Because if I knew it, I'd be too happy about it, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what, I don't know how sometimes. I'm comfortable knowing I'm George. Whatever my name is when I get there, if he gives me a new name, I'll be whatever I am there. But right now I'm George. I am not God.
Yeah.
He is.
Amen.
All I need to do is say, okay, God, I trust you. God, I can probably voice, God, I don't understand, but God, I trust you. Have I ever laughed a little when God has said something? God, are you sure? But then when I realized, if it's really God, he don't play games.
No.
So if it is really God, yes, he's sure. He's sure. So Lord, help us, our faith to be increased. My prayer is that your faith is increased. How many of you got wayward children? Raise your hand. I want to see who I'm in this with. Anybody with sick parents? Anybody that's sick yourself? Anybody that's got, yeah? You know what? We all may be in each other's shoes someday, but we all have a great big God.
Amen.
He looks down. Folks, we ain't going to be here forever. So however long we're here, let's put all our faith and confidence in God to believe. If I'm blind and God heals me tomorrow, then I'm healed. But if he does not heal me tomorrow, I will serve God blind.
Amen.
I will serve God through the fire. And you say that's pretty big. I'll be the first to tell you, until you're in a situation, you don't know how you will act.
That's right.
You don't know, let's see, put it this way, how you will react. Do you know how you would act? That's what actors do on the stage. They can act when given a part. If you come up and say, now whisper in my face, in my ear, I'm going to smack you in the face just for a little play and see what the people think. I'll stand there and you smack me in the face and I can react however. But if you just walk up and smack me in the face, you will see the true reaction come from me, right? I mean, that's the truth. So I don't know until some circumstances that I face, but through all the circumstances, through the doctors telling us that our grandbaby, our first grandbaby that was born, quite possibly could have all of her intestines and everything on the outside and just on the wrong side and everything messed up, and us praying. Teresa's like about to break down. We're in Lucasville. We're on our way to Columbus. We just get the word. I said, baby, we don't even know. We don't know a thing. All we know is we know God, and let's go. And we prayed on the way up, and we got up there. They came out and they looked at us and they said, we don't have a clue. Maybe it was a doctor's error. Maybe it was something, but that baby's healthy as can be. Now, whatever it was. Somebody says, well, you don't know it was God that healed it. At this point right now, that's all right with me. If it was the doctors that messed up, whatever it was fine with me. But if it was that way and God chose to heal her, he could.
Amen.
And if he chose to let her go, he's still God.
Amen.
Stand with me tonight if you will. Maybe you're here with a need you'd like to pray. We'd love to have you come. This is where you can get your needs met. And you don't pray for me. You're not praying to one another, but we will pray with you if you have a need tonight. Anyone in the building? I don't know about you, but a lot of people get in their vehicle, and the first thing to do is they turn the radio on and never have quiet time. Our musicians do a great job of playing, and Connie does a great job with the piano. Tonight that piano's not playing. This is your quiet time. If you have a need, please come. We don't care. You kneel down by the bale of hay up here if you want, whatever. But if you you have a need, let us pray. Some of you, ladies and gentlemen, you come in, you probably imagine she may be praying for Bible school, but she prays for whatever, and we're here for, right? And her kids. All right. If you have a need you'd like to come, please do come and pray.